depending on your time zone. We are going to get started here in just a minute. And so I just wanted to warmly welcome you. I see more people trickling in, so we're going to give people a minute or so. And I'm also going to get our live on Facebook going. All right. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Ayesha and I am the founder of Remake. This is the Investing in Black Entrepreneurs webinar. Welcome, welcome. For those of you that might be new to Remake, we are a nonprofit that's focused on making fashion a force for good. We have always centered our efforts when it comes to the fashion industry on thinking about social justice and environmental sustainability and how they go hand in hand. This webinar is a part of our ongoing series to be elevating many of the incredible Black ambassadors, creatives, designers, and partners in our community. And so I wanted to start with, we have amazing, wonderful, feminist, badass entrepreneurs today to talk to you all. And so I wanted to start with a quick round of introductions. Dyandra, we'll start with you first. So if you could just, in 1 minute, introduce us to all the fabulousness that you are. And, you know, not just your title, but what you'd want the world and this community to know about you.
Okay. Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody. I'm Dyandra Raye, and I am the founder of Jo-Anne Vernay luxury vegan shoes made from pineapples. And what would I want the world to know? So that conscious consumerism is achievable. I know you guys are probably here today, you know, to learn more about investing in Black entrepreneurs. And I feel like if we just take the time to really care about what we're buying, we can change the, you know, the course of fashion. So that's really what I stand behind. That's what my brand stands behind. And I'm glad to talk to you guys more about that today.
Wonderful and welcome. Val, would you like to introduce yourself as a Remake ambassador, but also all the amazing things that you do?
Hi, thanks so much, Ayesha. I'm Val Emmanuel. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Role Models Management, which is an ethical model and talent agency based in Los Angeles and New York. I really started my platform and my agency to be able to spread our message of environmental awareness, social justice. We have about 150 models on our board, and really just spread that across social media and to connect with brands who are also on a social and environmental mission. So I love what I do. I absolutely love what I do, but I love the people that I work with more because I have so many Remake ambassadors. And they're really out there like spreading the message of ethical fashion and social justice in the fashion and entertainment industry to their millions of followers. So I feel like a proud mama. I'm happy to be here. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Well, welcome, Val. And Chris, last but certainly not least.
Everyone, my name is Chris McKenzie. I am a Remake ambassador, and I also am the social media manager for Black VC, and I also work with a venture capital firm called the Ember Company. So I guess our major focus is really investing in brands that kind of reflect our values, brands that have diverse founders, brands that are ethical, brands that are sustainable. And so finding ways just in everything that you do, the way you shop, the way you function at work, doing things that reflect your values and reflect inclusiveness and diversity.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chris. And the conversation today that we're really going to have is around how to do a better job when it comes to investing in Black entrepreneurs. But I wanted to start really with talking first about how we can and we all should continue to first and foremost support Black Lives Matter, nothing seems more important than the movement and this reckoning that is finally happening in this country. And so I wanted to start with giving each of you an opportunity to share, are there particular ways that you are supporting Black Lives Matter, and for the community that's listening in, are there particular ways that you're wanting them to support the movement as well? So maybe Chris, we'll start with you.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So at Black VC, we actually had an event a few weeks ago, and it was a charge to the industry and a challenge to say, you need to increase your pipeline of Black founders you invest in. You need to increase the amount of Black investors that you hire. But people, I think, they gravitate towards people that reflect that. They're going to hire someone that looks like them, that talks like them, that they relate to. And unfortunately, that doesn't give you much diversity. So we've asked 3 things of venture capitalists in the industry. 1, have the discussions with your teams. If you need talking points, you can look them up online. 2, share your metrics, be transparent, and also commit to changing them. What percentage of your founders are Black founders? What percentage of your employees are Black employees? And also donate. So donate to racial social justice organizations specifically. I know a lot of people have the habit, okay, well, I'll just support something from a diverse founder, but this is really about Black people and creating equity and fairness in the Black community as far as all the business, operations that you have. And so doing that in every aspect of your life is really our ask. And I think that's a really good habit that you can do, very small or very large, depending on your position or your ability to do so.
What you say, Chris, there is so important in terms of the conversation. There's a little bit of echo, if you don't mind muting, Chris. That this has to be, very much a metrics-driven conversation. Don't tell me, show me, and that we have seen a lot of conflation of people saying, well, I just have to support diversity and inclusion, but that it's really important that this is really about Black people and supporting investment in that way. Now, Dyandra, one of the things that you and I were talking about in preparation for this webinar was just the connection between, when you think about police brutality, George Floyd's death that, the whole world watched, and the connection to economic opportunity and job creation and how all of that is linked. And so I wonder if you could unpack that for the audience a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I can talk about that from 2 angles, from corporate and also being an entrepreneur. Before I became a full-time entrepreneur, actually this past March, right when the pandemic happened, I was working corporate and I was one of only, at the table. And I think a lot of people are very quick to say Black Lives Matter, but it's like, okay, well, are any people in the C-suite level Black? Are you guys hiring Black talent? Are you using Black contractors? Because that's the only way you can really propel the Black community. And I remember, being in my position and being the person to bring Black people in. But it's like, it can't just be left to us. The higher ups have to do the same. So I think really just taking a stance to say, I'm going to hire more Black people. Black people are just as talented, just as driven, just as capable. So really making that a part of the longer term goal, not just something that's trending now, but, something that's sustainable. So from a corporate perspective, that's what I think, companies can do. And then from just an entrepreneurship perspective, really just supporting Black businesses. I have a e-retail company, and we're selling pre-orders, we're selling gift cards, making the decision to say, I'm going to shop from, a Black designer today, or I'm going to go to a Black owned restaurant today. And I'm not just going to go once, I'm going to go a few times, and really making it a part of your lifestyle. And then I feel like we can kind of take this movement global. Like, it's great we're getting the recognition, but we have to put the money where our mouth is, as people say.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Val, you had also talked to me about, look, this is not about charity. This is about, the disproportionate impact in which often Black people are left out of the conversations, out of the job opportunities. And so I wonder if you can share a little bit more about, how you directly support Black Lives Matter and what your call to action for everyone listening in would be.
Yeah, I love this topic a lot because I talk a lot with my friends about generational wealth and how people are like, pick yourself up from your bootstraps. And like, some people literally don't even have boots or know what boots are. So how I support Black Lives Matter today is really, I like to support organizations that are doing legal work, because I'm like, that's something I can't do. I can protest, I can shop Black businesses, I can do a lot of stuff. But as far as legal work, because our legal system is so unequal for people of color, that's something that I support with my dollar, and that's something I donate to. The other work that I'm doing really is trying to educate and give the resources that I've been given to people of color. So what that means for me, like how we're gonna solve the inequality problems, is something I talked about in the Remake article, which is when people have trouble finding Black talent, or they say, you know, there's only one because it's hard for me to source. Like, I don't know where all these creative Black, you know, entrepreneurs or creative Black talent. And I say, you have to make those opportunities, because sometimes those opportunities don't exist. You have to think about how our school system is set in place. I was a teacher before I started my agency. And so if you want to be hiring more Black people, you need to create those mentorship programs. You need to create those internship programs. And so one of my first internships was at Mary Karnowski Gallery in Los Angeles. And it was owned by a Chinese American woman. And she was very adamant about the fact that she wanted interns who, she's like, you know, every other gallery on this row has white interns, and it's not a racist thing. I just understand that it's easy for them to go to UCLA and get them. And so she specifically was trying to, you know, give people what she had been given as an immigrant. And also, I am Latino, my family, you know, we're immigrants. And so I think about things on two levels, but just trying to create opportunity where there is an opportunity, because I just don't trust that the higher up sometimes will do it. So I had to make my own. And I think that's the way that we can be actively anti-racist. And people go, well, what does it even mean to be anti-racist? And I say that just means creating opportunity, going the extra mile to do that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's about creating opportunities and really thinking about hire Black talent, to your point. And, you know, if there are particular legal funds that you're donating to, we love some of those lists from you as we do a summary of this webinar, so we can have people support that as well. Yeah. Let's pivot.
I will definitely do it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Val. Let's pivot a little bit to talk about our industry, the fashion industry, right? Which is to say, well, historically, the industry has certainly been very exclusionary. And, you know, we all know that the sustainable fashion movement, regardless of its sustainable ethos, has been no different. Yet we've seen this clamoring in recent times, right, of brands and creatives coming up to say, yes, you know, we need to do better. And so I'm just wondering, from any of your perspectives, has there been particular ways that brands have stepped up where, like, this is more of the kind of allyship that we need to see? And have there been others where it's just simply performative? You're like, what is this? This is just another marketing ploy. So any particular examples that come to mind?
Has anyone heard of the 15% pledge, which was started by Brother Villas, Aurora James? So the 15% pledge basically says, like, you know, Black citizens are 15% of the population. So let's have Target and all these other brands have 15% of their shelf space or online space be for Black brands. And that's something to me that is so easy for people to do. Like, there's plenty of Black talent, and, you know, maybe they don't like their packaging, or they need to work on their website or whatever. But people have to understand that you putting in that order, someone like Sephora, who has taken the pledge, and like, yes, Sephora, can completely catapult that brand to the next level. You know what I mean? Like, not every brand can immediately afford to get press or better packaging. And so for people like Nordstrom's or Target or Sephora, committing to having that 15% Black, it's like you're putting us on a whole different level where we're able to then hire employees and grow our businesses and scale and make an impact in our community, and start to, you know, build up our communities in a way that maybe we could not before if we're just doing direct to consumer, if it's like a super niche website or market. So I think commercialization is extremely important in this conversation. But the 15% pledge, if you have not heard of it, please look it up, support it, and convince brands to get on board.
And it's so concrete, right? 15% of the population is Black. 15% is what we're wanting from a pledge standpoint. So that's wonderful. And, you know, Chris, I know you had joined the Washington Post webinar when it came to talking about race and looking at it from a fashion standpoint. I'm wondering if there were particular nuggets for you to share around, well, this is sort of some of the obstacles historically, this is some of the momentum I'm seeing that's real, or where it's BS.
I definitely have some thoughts on that. So from the panel discussion, I was referring to Robin Javon from the Washington Post had a fireside chat with Kirby Jean Raymond from Pierre Moss, and I think it was Lindsay People-Wagner, editor-in-chief of Teen Vogue, and they're talking about, how is race treated in fashion? And she picked these people in particular because Lindsay actually wrote an article about what it's like to be a Black editor that went viral a while ago. And just Pierre Moss as a brand has always supported Black Lives Matter. He had a show, I think it was a spring 2016 show, if I'm not correct, that was blood was splattered on clothes. Black Lives Matter was like on shirts, and like he had orders from all the high-end retailers that got canceled because of it. But because the conversation has become full circle, now he's popular, and he's saying, it feels almost like it's some type of theater that people want to bring in Black designers, bring in Black editors, and reach out to them and have panels with them. And they're just being honest about that, we are doing this for ourselves. We lose work over it, but it's kind of like at the end of the day, we have to do what we believe in. And I really relate to that. I was a buyer for Macy's in the beginning of my career, so I saw that firsthand. And I will say, right now, there are organizations that are trying to actually help, designers of color who, need to cover payroll costs. They need to cover operating costs, even if they're not selling as well. And Kirby at Pierre Moss actually launched his own fund. He launched a $50,000 grant for designers of color. I believe it's still open. He's gotten additional donations since then from other brands to keep it going. And there's also a VC called, I think it's Resonance Companies, also launched a grant program for designers of color. So I'm not seeing a lot of it, but I'm seeing some, and I can definitely share those resources for the email that you sent.
You're collating those resources. Well,
yeah.
I think
so yeah, it's happening, but
yeah,
it's tough. I mean, if your mindset is, I don't need to hire Black people, I know what I'm doing. It's like, well, you're missing something. You're missing diversity. So can you be sensitive to, every cultural background? There are all these brands that have misappropriated Black culture to sell a collection and have gotten dragged by Twitter for it. So, diversity is important. And I think people are realizing that more and more.
We've talked about intergenerational wealth, and this is where, this is not about charity, but really it's about equity, right? And one of the things that I was struck by, Dyandra, as we were chatting, was this notion that, you can be a white person, particularly a well-connected white dude, and you could just have the potential of an idea, and you could pitch it, and you could unlock seed money, and you could unlock VC money, versus if you are a Black person in America, particularly a Black female entrepreneur, that the odds are stacked against you in a way that it's not just the potential of the idea, but you almost have to have a proven concept. And so I wondered if you could share more about, what was the process with your shoe line in getting seed money, some of the conversations you've had with VCs, just for people to understand what those obstacles are like.
Yes, of course. So I did put some percentages on my social media. So only 1% of Black businesses are going to be receiving VC funds. And then only 5% are getting any COVID relief. I mean, you look at these numbers and you know that Black businesses are having to rely on their own measures to stay afloat. And that's exactly what's happening with Jo-Anne Vernay. We have gone through 5 rounds of funding just to get from, our sketch to our prototype that's pre-production. We've had to do crowdfunding, which there's some amazing platforms out there that people can just go on and look for Black businesses to support, like Kiva Zip, Indiegogo, and you can go on there and support these pledges because that's the money that we use to start our business. Without our community, we wouldn't even be where we are today. And, outside of that, we're taking private donations, raising equity from family members. And, even being able to do that, I know is a blessing. Some people don't have family members that can say, here goes X amount of dollars so I can help turn your dream into a reality. And I think the disparities against Black businesses with these low percentages is what keeps us from, getting the marketing money you need for the beginning, getting the sampling money, the prototyping money. It's like you have to invest to make money. And so if you want to have a brand that's carried in Neiman Marcus, it's going to have to be to a certain caliber. So, like you're saying, this white guy can go in and just say, here's my idea, here's my business plan. And they're like, here goes $50,000, take it and do what you want. And, as Black entrepreneurs, we need to proof of concept. They want a prototype already done. That costs money to even make. And you have to jump through hoops just to get, somewhat of a yes, because this doesn't mean you're going to get approved for the loan or you're going to, get all of the funding. So I feel like if people are making more of, an impact by saying, I will loan to a percentage of Black businesses, or we will invest certain amount of seed funding into Black businesses, these businesses can thrive, and really prove scalability. And so, we're constantly crowdfunding because we haven't found, that investor yet that's really going to give us the money we need to even adhere to our business plan, especially amidst COVID. So I think more companies need to do what, Aurora James is asking companies to do. They need to say, I'm going to have 20% of my businesses be Black businesses, and this is what I'm investing in, or whatever percentage they come up with. But it can't be 1 and it can't be 5. I mean, so.
And I think, putting this in context, Chris, knowing that, you are going to be working on a book looking at VC trends. I know one of the things that you kindly did was give me a list of, every VC or angel investor who's publicly committed to investing more in Black businesses. And we actually literally emailed everyone on that list, inviting them to this panel to say, well, here are some incredible Black entrepreneurs, if you really are wanting to invest, then come attend this webinar and come support them. So just to give people a bit of a macro perspective when it comes to, what percentage of seed money goes to Black businesses? What about from a VC standpoint?
Yeah, I think this was said early on the call, under 1% of VC funding goes to Black founders. So it's pretty dire. And also if you even look at the investment teams, about 1% of VCs are Black. So again, I think it's that people.
Your internet's a little bit problematic, Chris. So what we heard was 1% of VCs are Black, and then under 1% of investment goes to Black founders. Maybe you're back. Go ahead.
Yes. Is it better? Okay. Sorry about that. So obviously if you only have 1% of investors being Black and they're trying to invest in Black founders, you still need the buy-in of your other partners. And so if they're kind of wanting to go with something that they get and is safe to them and familiar, it's like a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. If white boys and hoodies worked well before, we're going to keep investing in white boys and hoodies. So it's, it's pretty sad. A lot of have made, pledges to working on their pipelines, but at the same time, I get calls daily saying, hey, help me improve my pipeline, but can you do it for free? You know what I mean? So it's like, we want to get there, but I think they're missing the point. If they want to hire a Black person for free to get their pipeline of people, are they even going to compensate them fairly? So it's, there's a lot of work to be done.
And we're going to talk offline about that, right? Like labor cannot be free, and that you have to make sure that you're adequately compensated for your time. This notion of crowdfunding, because the institutional systems are just not set up to support Black businesses, is really interesting. And I wonder, Val, now that you have some years of getting role models under your belt, knowing that it's so important in the ethical fashion movement, here are models that are wanting to use their platform for change. How has the fundraising been for you? Has it been pretty much more of that crowdsourcing, or were there some, other types of investors you were able to pull in?
So when we started our business, we actually did a crowdfunding, and we just raised money to get all of our licenses and stuff, which was like $1,000 in the beginning. That's what we needed. And we were just like, we don't really know if we want to do this. So if we get the money, that'll be our sign from God that we should do it. So of course we got the money. I think everybody who was really thought that our idea was, amazing. Like all of our friends who had been listening to us talk, donated. And then we actually got money from our families, and like we probably total have raised not that much, like less than $10,000, because we started working right away. I think we were extremely eager, and I had a lot of people who I talked to. I was like, I know this, Russian billionaire and this German billionaire guy, like they all own talent agencies because that's just what billionaire guys do. Like the Trump types, they buy model agencies. And then I went, no, they kind of buy them because they're weirdos and they think that owning a model agency, they can like date all the models. So I immediately was like, I can have conversations with any more of these creeps. And then I just realized that I strategized with a few people and they said, I think the best thing for you to do would be to basically build up your client base and keep your costs very low. And for us, like we're not producing a product, you know what I mean? We're selling services. So we've been very lucky in that way. We have had sometimes where our overhead was just enormous. But yeah, we only raised what we needed at the time. And even when we've, gone out to take out loans, like I wasn't able to take out any loans. We did get an SBA loan. But before that, I think we've just been like, I'm very good with money. Anne-Therese is very good with marketing. And so we've saved money that way.
I'm just struck by, again, this conversation of how you have built your businesses, Dyandra and Val, with doing a lot with very little, from proof of concept to immediately working to make your business profitable without having that cushion. And again, for people to realize sort of how the odds are really stacked against you when you're a Black entrepreneur, and particularly female Black entrepreneur, versus, how many people raise the sort of money from VCs as the white guy in the hoodie and the businesses go bust and it's just like playing Russian roulette and that's just the game, And it strikes me as so much of this is about access, having the right access, the right connections in order to get your business off the ground. And so I'm curious, Dyandra, for some of the young entrepreneurs, people who may be listening in on this call that have an idea, that are just wanting to think about, well, how do I get started? What would be some of the tactical advice that you would give them?
So when I first started Jo-Anne Vernay, I had no prototypes. I had a business plan and 4 sketches. And I marched down to this like pitch competition in DC, and I didn't end up getting the funding, but just being there and, attending these different places where there's other like-minded Black entrepreneurs was what I needed to just keep going, because of course, starting a business is a long process. We've been building Jo-Anne Vernay for about 2 years prior to even going on pre-order. So I would definitely say, you don't have to have much, actually. You just really need to have a business plan, have an idea, know your target market. You can have a sketch or a picture of it, and then going out and talking to people, I think is the best thing. And placing yourself in positions where you're going to be meeting people who, can see your potential and then eventually will end up putting money back into you. So there's a lot of different organizations that I can also provide that, do pitching for pre-revenue businesses, or they really focus on taking it from, your sketch to prototype. So there's a lot of people out there that can help. I'm more than happy to even help, one-on-one, because it can be daunting. And then another thing would be to start saving. You're going to have to make a lot of cutbacks when you're starting your business, even personally in your life. So when I started, I was doing bootstrapping, which is just self-investing. And so all of the money I was using to shop or get my nails done or get my hair done went to my business, because it was like, if we need to put a sample together, that costs $4,000, I'm going to have to make some, cuts, no trips for me this year kind of thing. So really making sacrifices in the beginning to also show the people that you're getting in front of that not only should you believe in my business, but I believe in my business because I'm investing my own money in it and my own time. So I think those are 2 really important and, very achievable ways to just get the ball rolling.
And one of the things I really appreciate about you, Chris, is how you always come with your spreadsheets, and this is a data-driven conversation. And so I wonder if there are, particularly in the current climate where there is some investment, like you said, not so much, but at least promises of that, are there particular grant funds or relief funds or, pots of money that you could share with us that would be relevant?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that's a great question. So Black VC, we have a Medium page, and when the pandemic started, we had a master list of grants, VC funding, all the opportunities that we knew about for relief funds for Black founders specifically. And we're also going to do a follow-up article that covers grants that might not be COVID related, but just in general, in light of what's happening politically, people that are creating funds, a lot of them are more grant giving than investing, which is kind of tragic because it's that idea that I have to donate to Black businesses, not just invest in strong founders and strong business plans. So we'll wait to see if that kind of shifts as well, but ton of resources I can send, no problem.
And Val, have you seen any difference, for role models in particular, in terms of investment opportunities that you've been wanting to chase, where people are like, okay, now I get it? Or has it been more, the public statements versus the reality continues to be that you all are bootstrapping or focusing on growing the business rather than looking for a capital injection?
We're still looking. We actually did not have our business plan until 3 years into the business, because we started the business and like 5 days later we had our first client, and then a week later we had our second client, and then we just started to grow so fast that we didn't have time to think about it until we were like, wait, we're like paying ourselves $500 a month. Like, we just can't live on this, So we are definitely looking. I think the thing is, and this is something I just want to say about generational wealth and like what that means for investors, because it's not that like my credit isn't good or my business is not generating profit or whatever. It's just like, when you look at collateral and the way that works and how investors look at that and banks look at that, it's like, there's no way that I can have a certain amount of collateral as my friend who grew up in the Palisades when I grew up, in Venice Beach at a time where like it was not the Abbot Kinney Venice Beach. Let me just tell you that. And so, it's like my friend on paper has been given X, Y, and Z. She's got like $2 million worth of like land and like owns all these things. And like for me, where my parents are immigrants, I don't have all of those things. And so for me, we've applied for loans and we've not received them, or like we received one loan, a QuickBooks loan, which was like $20,000, and we immediately paid it back. We just wanted to do that to build our credit up, because I'm now having to build credit that my parents couldn't build. So that's what I'm trying to do, is kind of make up for lost time of, things that they couldn't get and things that they could not do. And with investors, kind of just like building trust within my business, because like you said, this concept has not really been proven. It's niche. And so to them, a lot of VCs and investors, I feel, are very risk averse. And so I basically have to build way more trust than someone else would. And this is a fact, because I've been in talks with like people from the Kimberly-Clark family and all types. I, for some reason, always meet like billionaires and multimillionaires when I have these conversations. And they've basically given me a list of things that I need to do, and like, come back to me when you've made X amount of money, or come back to me when you've proven these 3 things. So yeah, what we're doing right now is just building trust so that we can have those conversations maybe next year when the world is looking better.
Yeah. And, I sort of really appreciate this notion of how much in COVID, when we know the fashion industry is going through its own contraction, and when you've already had to deal with so many obstacles to get these businesses up and running, how important it is to have that investment, because, you didn't get a fair start to begin with. And just a reminder to everyone listening in, we definitely want to take your questions. There's no such thing as a dumb question. So, the Q&A box is there for you. Otherwise, if you raise your hand, I can unmute you and you can certainly ask. I could keep talking to you all, but that would be quite selfish. So as people are thinking about their questions, Dyandra, back to you. One of the things I'm curious about is just, as you walked in to raise some seed money, you did the crowdfunding because that's what you had to, knowing, from the fashion standpoint, that sustainable shoes is a largely unmet category. There isn't a lot of good options out there that are both stylish, but you've also thinking about, for vegans. And then here we have this Black entrepreneur with, experience. What's the pushback, as you walk in and you're reading the room? What's the pushback to say, hey, as someone who follows fashion trends, it's like, of course you should invest in a vegan shoe line. So just curious, what those conversations are like.
Yeah, I laugh a bit because it's funny, some of the things I get, because our shoe is made of pineapples. It's made of piña tex. And when I say that, people are like, what? Like, does that mean that you can only wear them in the summer? Can you eat them? Like, you know, all these just very
Can you eat?
questions. And it's like, no, this is a vegan shoe that can stand in the place of, you know, your Christian Louboutin or, you know, another shoe that is not using vegan materials. And it's like people can't wrap their head around how you can take, you know, a pineapple and turn it into something that looks like a luxury shoe. So that's really what I have to prove, you know, now that we have our prototyping and, you know, we're ready for production. It's easier to prove that now. But when I first started, you know, with sketches and just an idea, people, I think, believed in me as a business owner, because I do like to tell people this is my third business. You know, entrepreneurs normally are serial business owners. And so this is not the first time I've had to prove concept. It's the first time that it's been so unknown that it's always a teaching point of, you know, what Pinatex is, that it's pineapple leaf fiber, you know, the top of the pineapple, it's not the pineapple itself, you know. So really explaining to people that this is a durable fabric that can produce a shoe line. And this is not the only fabric. There's so many other things, you know, there's cactus leather, you know, there's hemp shoes at this point. So really educating not only just the consumer, but investors on why veganism is something that we should be investing in, especially with COVID. I mean, so many people are having to go vegan because of the problems with the meat industry. So it's like people being able to believe in veganism and also sustainability, and really just teach people, because the two mirror and the two work together. But I feel like sustainability has become this trend. So explaining how, you know, it's more than just a product. It's like the way that your product is produced. And so just really teaching is what I feel like is the biggest thing I have to do when I walk into any investment room.
Absolutely. So there are questions coming in. I really like this one from Mila. The question is, what is the biggest mistake you all have made? It's like, let's just go there, lady.
God, I think our biggest mistake in the beginning was being afraid to apply for grants and like being afraid to apply for loans and funding and maybe even asking people for money. I think we waited like 2 years. We just kind of doubted ourselves. And I realized that there are some people who are into taking risks. So if you are, you know, working in an idea, and especially if you start to sell your idea or you have like a proven concept, immediately, you know, start to reach out to those different resources. And even in the beginning stages, I think you can do that. But we waited until we were 2 years in to do that. And then when we got approved for like our first loan, which we immediately paid back, I thought, damn, we could have been building credit for 2 years. So we waited too long, but now we're in the financial game. So yeah.
I would say for me, one of the biggest mistakes was really thinking I had to pour all this money into marketing. You know, a lot of people will tell you you want to spend 10 to 15% of your revenue on marketing, but if you're a new brand, that's a lot of money. And so definitely, you know, using the money that you have wisely, but not thinking that you have to take out the largest Facebook ad or Instagram ad to get customers to come, you know, or that you have to go get one of the most expensive photographers, you know, to do your photo shoot. I've actually seen, like, I received the same amount of engagement from a shot on my phone, you know, to a shot that's on a DSLR camera. So really, you know, using what you have, you know, right now, all I have is my Samsung, you know, in quarantine. That's what I shoot with. And the pictures can kind of stand next to other professional photos that we've shot before. And that's really taught me that you just don't have to put all this money out there to get the word across, because we've actually gotten more traction with organic press than really actually trying to pay for marketing. So I would really say that, especially with social media these days, you know, marketing can be one of your cheapest expenses, actually. So making sure that you're not overspending in that area.
So Chris, this question is directed particularly to you. It's to say that, you know, the way consumers have been asking brands to invest in Black talent, is there a way that us as citizens can push VC firms to do the same? For a lot of us, it feels like VCs are untouchable to the everyday person.
Yeah, that is a tough one. I think it comes from using the network that you have to push that message across. So if you know someone who's a founder or a smaller VC or an up and coming angel, and kind of having that conversation with them. I think if everyone's doing it, they're going to kind of look odd and out of date if they're not doing it as well. So I think, even founders that I've spoken with, I work with the SoGal Foundation, and there's a founder of Cherry Blossom Intimates, a boutique, who said, I wanted to take money only from SoGal as my first investor because I knew they believed in me. They invest in women, they invest in non-binary people, and I knew they were going to understand my brand. And so all money's not good money. So just like waiting out for that and turning people down, they're gonna be like, well, what's the holdup? But and she's like, if your board doesn't reflect me, how do I think I'll have a future at this company that you'll invest in the things I need and promote me in the same way? So I think if we're having the conversations at any level, it's going to bubble up and it's going to look really tacky if they don't follow suit.
And look, this was the transparency, right? Where we looked at every VC angel investor who made public commitments on, I'm going to invest more in Black entrepreneurs. We invited them. I don't know if some of you are on the call, but we will follow up with this webinar as well and say, here's Val, here's Dyandra, put your money where the mouth is. So I do think that some of that transparency is starting to happen. So here's a question, and I hope maybe this person is serious about it, but it's anonymous. They're asking, if I had $5,000 and wanted to support a marginalized fashion designer, what should I do? Dyandra, you could just say, give me the money.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, right now, as a small Black business, we are currently raising the money we couldn't make for production because of COVID. COVID hit and it's like, where's anybody going? Why does anyone need a shoe? But, we still have to stay on target. So, I mean, I set up an Indiegogo campaign, to take money. So it's like, if you see Indiegogo campaigns or Key Visit campaigns, donate to those, or if you see small Black businesses that are talking about, we're trying to come from prototype to production, or we're trying to produce our second collection, reaching out to them and asking them, how can you support? And also not just donating, you can become an angel investor, for equity. That's definitely something that's possible. So I feel like really just, like I said before, putting your money where your mouth is and just really researching and staying on top of it to make sure that your money is going toward these Black entrepreneurs. And we'll take it.
And maybe you can put the link in the chat, Dyandra, to your shoe line. So if there are VCs, maybe quietly listening, then they know how to support you. And Chris, thank you for putting the Fund Black Founders site up as well. Here's a question that's slightly different, that's interesting. And so the person here is asking, during the No New Clothes pledge, which, as Remake is running over the summer, no new clothes for 90 days, I've been thinking a lot about my messaging, the messaging my clothes send. I want to be really intentional in my fashion to say, I'm a Black woman, I am thriving, and Black Lives Matter. How could I say this, without buying a graphic tee? Like, what should that sort of expression of your fashion be to say, hey, I'm thriving and I'm supporting Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that, if that's okay. So you can definitely support Black brands. And I think when people ask, or if you want to share it, you can tag them when you're wearing it on Instagram, because it doesn't have to be in your face. Like, this is my graphic tee for the day. Like, it can just be your silently supporting a founder from a diverse background, and people will know once you start talking about it, where you shop. I mean, even I needed some tees for sleeping in. I went on Etsy and found Black founders to buy, sleeping t-shirts in. Like, it's just the small things, and it becomes a habit after a while.
Yeah, and I think another way, which I've been telling people, is the things you can do to support a business that costs $0. I think every day on my Instagram and on my company's Instagram, we're trying to highlight to, between all of us who run the Instagram, 25,000 followers on there, just promoting a Black business every single day. Because I'm doing no new clothes for 90 days, but also it's like, I don't want to have a graphic tee. I want to have something that I want to wear out, like sexy, to a Grammy party or wherever. When people ask me, I want to go, this is this Black designer X, Y, and Z. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I get photographed, and sometimes I've ended up in magazines or on blogs, like, I want them to be able to tag that designer. And so I'm trying to make sure now when I go to all my public events, like, I'm working with a Black stylist or someone who I can also give praise and try to help their platform. So, I mean, graphic tees are cute, especially for a picture, but I'm way more interested in promoting brands like Dyandra's, who has a high-end shoe line, and like, let's show that off.
And that's actually sustainable. You know, I once was joking with a friend who had a Black Girls Magic tea, and I'm like, well, do you know like who made that? And if it was a Black woman, like was she treated properly? Because teas are, of course, like such a low volume, high churn business, and so often they're not made in the best of conditions. Dyandra, I think this is a question for you. It's asking, are there any Black fashion mentorship programs that you would recommend?
Yes, actually, I saw that pop up, and the first thing in my mind was Harlem Fashion Row, which is a really great Black organization that started here in Harlem, and basically just started with young designers of color who have ended up on Project Runway with large collections, and it's just became this amazing organization. So they have a lot of things going on. They have Icon 360, which you can apply for funding if you're a small Black business, and they also have a designers retreat. The applications did close for this year. Today, actually, I ended up getting in, so yay. But they have it every year. So it's something amazing to apply to. You can really be in front of the right people. And they have just amazing outlets. Even if you don't attend the retreat, you can do a membership and meet other designers. So I would say they're a great resource, and I can definitely share some more, after this.
And I think while I have you, one of the other questions coming in for you, Dyandra, is could you talk a little bit about the challenges of finding a sustainable and ethical manufacturer for your shoes? Big question, I know, because it's like once you have the money, cobbling the supply chain is a whole other headache, right?
Yeah. So funny story for us, we didn't have a manufacturer up until probably our soft launch, which was this big thing in New York. And so I'm panicking, like, who is making our shoe? Because our prototyper didn't have all of the tools to actually make the shoe. So I had no idea they'd be made in Italy. I thought they'd be made in the US. And I'm literally scrambling, and I'm like, how am I going to find, a manufacturer that knows what Pingatex is? And I couldn't. And so finally, and this is what I would recommend, I reached out to Pingatex and I was like, listen, I can't find a manufacturer. Who do you guys know that knows how to work with your product? And I think that's kind of the easiest way, is kind of going to the source, because immediately they're like, here goes our recommendation, and this is our manufacturer today. And now, we're made in Italy, which is a stamp that we weren't even expecting to have. So definitely kind of going back, like once you find the fabric, going back to the supplier and just explaining to them, your problem. And, I always say closed mouths don't get fed. So it's like, if I wouldn't have asked, we probably didn't have a manufacturer. So it definitely was very difficult, but, making sure, again, you're just talking about it and keeping, this on people's tongues so that when they think of different things or meet different people, they come back to you with the information.
Amazing. I think this is a question that, any of you could take. The question is, do you think launching a virtual sustainability design challenge for Black designers in particular would be fruitful?
Hello? Oh.
Go ahead, Val.
I think, yeah, definitely. I mean, before I had my business, I worked with a Black-owned athleisure brand, and one of the things she did was she did like a 99 designs to help find fashion designers and basically build her whole site. And she, like my friend CJ, she specifically was like, I want to work with, everybody who worked on our team was like Black, Asian, Latino. She was just like, I know that everybody who's making my stuff and making my patterns does not look like me. So she wanted her team around her to look like her. And so she basically launched these little programs, and she paid people even for participating, and it brought out so much creativity, and she let people keep their designs. And she just went like, I value your input. And I just want to let you know that basically, like, I'm looking out for you with her line. So that was really interesting. But having, Black students basically help design her collections, it just gave them, I don't know, a sense of pride in being able to have that stamp that they've worked with this person. So I think that's a great idea.
Maybe we take it to Parsons or some of the design schools.
Yeah.
Get some of the donors to set up a fund. This question, I think, It's interesting also to know that, Black Lives Matter, it has so much momentum right now. There's so much work to be done, but then sometimes it's almost we start to conflate a lot of other things around the movement. And we've had some conversations around it's really important to focus on what Black Lives Matter means here in the American context. And so the question here is, I'm interested in African entrepreneurship and fashion. It's great to see the BLM movement taking off, but it's very American centric. What are we or should we be doing to invest in Black entrepreneurs on the continent? And you could have an opinion to say, hey, that's just not BLM scope,
I mean, I think I would definitely say that that's one of the biggest disconnects, like as an African American towards Africans. I feel like if we start operating as one, essence of this is amazing, return to Africa, 400 years of slavery where African Americans were over in Africa. So I think if we just start treating it as one, one entity in fashion, it's and not two different ones. Because I see a lot of platforms where it's like such and such Africa. And it's like, why can't it just be, this is Black fashion and it kind of spans globally and then we're all kind of in one pot. So I think kind of making it one thing could be an answer to kind of taking BLM global potentially.
So, there's been so much good practical information and I cannot thank you all enough. Going to sort of ending this conversation in some way on high notes, and we're not ending, it's going to be, this is one of many to come. What is, one of the panelists asked, one of the folks in the chat asked this question, the very best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Creating an email list. If you're on here and you're an entrepreneur, I think the best thing that we did was create an email list, because every month we have a client newsletter and we also have a model newsletter, and every month we get a couple $1,000s just generated from that email list. And also LinkedIn has been another tool that last month I was like $60 a month, I don't want to do it. But we made like at least $75,000 last year just from LinkedIn contacts. Like I start to, make lists of where we're basically making our money from. And so just making those little investments into things like email lists, letting people know that you are here. I mean, when we do raise money for ourselves or other organizations, to just immediately have people who we know are, know who have our back, or we've worked with them before in the past, or they worked with me when I was 14 years old or whatever, when I was modeling. Email lists are gold.
Anything to add there, Chris or Dyandra?
I would say that the best advice I've ever gotten is really to hone in on who you are before you start your business, because your brand is going to tell the story before you walk in the door. So really figuring out like what's unique about your brand and then not deviating from that, because it can be very easy to see what other people are doing and follow their trend. And I think that's when businesses kind of struggle. So really just standing firm in you, what you believe in, and letting people realize how amazing that is versus trying to convince people that, this is amazing. Like eventually people will catch on.
Chris?
Sure. I totally agree with the email list. That's been like game changing for me as well. I would say that I've always been told to get a mentor that looks like me and a mentor that's the opposite of me, because then you know exactly how much you should be making and what other people are making in that field, and what your package should look like, how you should be treated, how you should be compensated, the opportunities that you should have, because there's no way to know if you're only talking to people that are your age doing the same thing, figuring it out. So I think that's been pivotal for me, finding out that someone who looks just like me with just as much experience is getting paid double or getting paid half. It helps you know your worth and demand it over time.
That's brilliant. And, as we're closing out here, one of the things that we really strive to do with these webinars is make them action oriented. So it's, you've dropped so many gems of wisdom, as someone said in this talk. People have been, hopefully as I have, copiously taking notes. But what are 3 direct ways for each of you that this audience, and we'll post it on our site and share it back with the VC list, what are 3 ways that people can directly support you or causes that you really care about? And maybe we'll start with you, Val.
3 ways to directly support. So I think we need to keep the conversation going. I'm seeing a lot of people going back to their regular posting, and we're encouraging all of our models to follow organizations like Black Lives Matter and support Black businesses, and just continuously sharing that information, especially for me. Like, I like to share the positive information. Like, this is what I donated today. You know, I needed to buy conditioner. I didn't go to Target. This is where I purchased instead. Also, you know, when you want to look at businesses, it's very easy to just go to the first page of Google. I keep encouraging people, go to pages 2 and 3 of Google, because that's where you're going to find those businesses who can't afford SEO and they can't afford to really get on that first page. And so I love doing that when I'm looking for like a production company or even a photographer. And then the third thing you can do, I think, is really email and connect with people and show them your support on things like on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'm just trying to basically build a network of like-minded people. So building my network of also Black entrepreneurs is high on my list right now. I'm also part of the Female Founders Collective. So, you know, just in those groups and like checking in on them and giving people resources, just sharing what I've been freely given is the third action step. Like, everybody has something to give. So just kind of figure out what that is and share it.
And how about for role models in particular? If someone is wanting to support the business, what would
if you're wanting to, I mean, if you have a company and you're in need of production services, or you're in need of models for a project, I mean, we're willing to work with brands of all sizes, which I think, you know, and I work with other agencies, they did, and they just go, oh, I don't know who you are, you're a small company, but we answer every single email, which I think is really unique about our business, because I know what it's like to not be answered. So yeah, if you need anything, you can always email me.
Amazing. Dyandra, how about you? 3 ways to support you.
So to support Jo-Anne Vernay, our current shoe, the Mel Heel, is on pre-order. So we are taking those now. So you can definitely support in that way. We're shipping in September, and it's a really, you know, beautiful shoe that you'll be able to have for a while. And then, you know, if you're not a woman who's looking for a heel, or you don't want a heel, we actually have gift cards, which has been a great way to support small businesses. So those are available for purchase. And then also just really sharing, you know, very much to Val's point, just sharing more about our story, you know, on social media, telling your friends, signing up to our email list, forwarding those emails around, and really any Black businesses that you find, you know, just keeping the word going, keeping the conversation going. So you can support Jo-Anne Vernay those ways.
Thank you. And Chris?
Sure. If you're interested in becoming an investor of any level, Black VC, it's spelt without an A. If you join their email list, which is on our homepage of our website, or follow us on LinkedIn or Twitter, there's a lot of great resources for connecting founders and investors, or learning about becoming an investor. I think that's an easy way to get involved. There's no cost to follow or join. I would say that's the best. And just, you know, make an effort, just small, you know, every day. Like, am I even supporting a Black-owned business when I make this purchase? There's this website, it's based in DC, called Black and Green. And the founder of that, Dr. Henderson, only sources from natural Black-owned businesses. It's like bath and beauty products. So it's like your soap. You could switch out your soap to a Black-owned business. You could switch out your face cream. But stuff like places like that are places you can go to just kind of diversify the people that you're investing in and supporting.
Wonderful. So thank you all so very much. You know, I pride myself in, if I end right on time, then my work here is done. I could keep talking to all of you, but for those who've enjoyed this conversation, you know, please keep up with the ways that we are working hard to build a more inclusive and sustainable fashion industry. Our Instagram is Remake Our World, and our site is remake.world. A few of you have asked, and what we will do is we are recording this conversation. All the resources that we've shared, we'll put it up on our site. I also wanted to mention on Monday, we are having our Remake community call, which is focused on a slightly different but very important topic, which is the Senate Bill 1399, which will assure that we no longer have wage theft in the state of California, and that workers who are predominantly Black and brown women who sew in downtown LA, and yes, there are sweatshops in LA, often making at piece rate. And we have sort of a 2-week time to get this bill past the final vote, so that brands are not really able to take advantage of contracting loopholes. And in that way, essentially paying workers subhuman wages. So that conversation is happening on Monday. But I hope that people will, join me in applauding our amazing panelists so very much for your gems of wisdom. I will mention that, historically, a lot of the Remake conversations have been free. One of the reasons that we had a suggested donation for this conversation is that whatever we raise, we pay it back in speaker fee. I think even if it is more just the spirit of doing this, it's important to recognize that first and foremost, when we're thinking about investing and elevating Black voices, paying for the labor of Black people, particularly Black women, your time, your energy is really important. And for everyone listening in to know that, it's not you all's problem to fix some of this white supremacist structures that we operate in, right? Where VCs have historically not given you access, or angel investors don't really look at you in the same ways perhaps they might other types of funders. So, I'd encourage any of you that are reaching out to Chris and Dyandra and Val, whether for advice, whether for professional connections, to be also thinking about how we can support and pay for that labor. So thank you all so very much. Enjoy the rest of your day and afternoon. Take good care.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.